Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 323 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to finish up with the Tier 2 ore processing types, this time with Cobalt, Gold, and a new one, Chrome. Enjoy. Actually, one other thing we might want to do. We already researched nitinol, but we haven't touched tungsten yet, and tungsten's kind of weird because we can make the plate just fine. But if we follow the tungsten processing, that just gives us the ability to make pipes and undergrounds and gears. You see, it gives us some other things, but also tungsten alloy processing, which are more things that would happen down here. It's kind of weird in the sense that it requires copper plates and the powder, but do we really want to be sending like tungsten powder, tungsten oxide all over the place when we can just make this stuff down here? So the only things we'll have to send up are the copper tungsten plates and tungsten carbide plates. So it makes the most sense to make these things down here. So we'll get that as well, just so it's ready, because tungsten's going to be on the end here. So the next one is cobalt. And it looks like the idea is the same here, where we put limestone in. And it looks like it's going to take less limestone in general, because it's 3 times the cobalt oxide, but only double the limestone. But it is going to require a chemical furnace though, so we are going to have to rebuild that element of it. But the concept is the same. And then, to make the ingots, we'll actually just need the cobalt oxide. So right now we're kind of doing cobalt oxide and something else to make the ingots, but now it's just going to be the cobalt oxide. So it's basically the same, but it is going to be different, so let's just make a new line for it. Our goal is the ingots from the oxide, from the processed. Set to input, and of course we have our 60 now. So there we go, this one can run on the carbon, and gotta have the speed modules. I don't know if I've been remembering to fill in all the module slots on all of these, so I'll probably have to check them later. So maybe I should be doing it now while I'm thinking about it, then let the robots put everything in. Pretty straightforward. It is just going to be kind of different. So let's see here. We do have the storage chest, but we'd probably want that to actually be something else. So I don't know if we'd really want to put it here. Let's just pick it all up. Because we have something that we're copying. So let's just use that. This can be the processed cobalt. And there we go. We went under this again, which is kind of annoying, but let's just swing to the side there. And then that will allow that to barely reach. And we're going to have tons of space to do this. So no reason to get crazy about it. So let's just do side by side, where it's 12 on each of these as an input, but we need to have the stack. Let's put it at the bottom, and then maybe the non-stack here. Yep. For the limestone. Pretty good. And then 2 outputs. Probably gonna need to have 2 of these, yeah. Regular, regular. Near, near. Right in there. And then they can combine. In this situation, we probably want a nice little strong box to sort it. Just because we need to pull a little bit off to the side for our battery making, and now that makes a lot more sense than the kind of craziness that it was before. And it would be slightly cleaner if we did this in a different way, but oh well. Because that now needs to go up. This one can go to the side. And we still have this carbon here. Which, would it fit if it was on this side? Yes. And that should be lined up with the stuff down here. And it seems to be. So we have all of this junk. Well, we don't really need to pull the carbon away, but I guess we are. And then let's switch this to the next tier, but it actually has to be the better machine. That is a lot of inserters in there. I kind of feel like we should do something about that. Feels like Cobalt wasn't even that long ago, and now we have multiple tiers better of items. So I'm sure the settings are similar. And if the input was that, then the output needs to be the same. Although we do need to do, like, near and far, so we'll leave those as they are and get rid of these guys on the top. And as far as the fuel input, it does need to be a stack, but only the one. Okay. We're waiting on everybody to get here, but they are. And cobalt oxide needs to make it into its location. So instead of having that there, let's open it up and say it's just trying to get to 1,000. And we'll use this chest here to grab the cobalt oxide. And it's on the way. So that should eventually catch up. Okay, let's get the limestone in there. Oh yeah, we need some power too. Alright, and then hook it up. This is only 90 a second as opposed to 120, so it won't fill the belts anywhere close. But seems to be working. And those go, not much to see. And now we've increased our output again. So not only is this improving efficiency, but it's actually improving output. Progress was made there. Now we got one more resource to upgrade. And since it's straight through, it should be really easy to upgrade. Let's see if there's any differences. We process the gold. And then we take that processed gold and add chlororic acid to get the gold cathodes. And that acid comes from nitric and hydrochloric and some ingots. So we need to put some ingots in here to make some. And then the cathodes go in and get turned into ingots, and we're good to rock and roll. So that is a little different. So let's follow it down. Let's worry about the acid last in a separate step. So the input is going to be 60 with the correct modules, the correct fuels. Oh, that's actually kind of huge. 15 machines these days is actually quite large. Okay. And that's going to make 180 because we also need to make the acid, which actually kind of requires a bit of acid too. And that gets the numbers down to what we're expecting. So let's see what we can do. And we sent the fuel through the middle again, because of course we did. So we'll have to do the jump like we've been doing. And we're probably going to need to move this around. So in fact, we're not even going to need the chlorine this time. We need acids. So we can just unhook this entirely. Oh god. I was worried about that oxygen was going somewhere else. That's what I get for not paying attention to what I'm unhooking. Alright, it's back. So for now, we'll just grab all of this. And copy this over. There's actually some space in here now. This time, making gold. And I would say that's almost the last thing we need to do. But we also need to work on chrome, which is a new thing. But it's probably going to be fairly similar. Okay, we've got our processed gold. That goes into 15 chemical furnaces. So I guess we'll try to line it up here. And it won't really require anything special, but let's just line them up with the machines so it looks nice, at least as nice as we can get it. So the belt's going to come in there. Also, this fuel belt's just going to come flying through. So this is going to create quite a few resources. It's important to note that this is going to make 180. So per machine, the input is actually tiny because they're so slow. Just the yellow. And then the long-handed there. That's basically it for the inside. We need to move the acid around. And then the output is going to be 12, but because of how much we're moving, we actually need to do 2 belts on each side. We could probably squeeze it in here, if we're careful what we do here. And technically, the one inserter will work. So I think we've got something we can kind of copy. So we'll grab that. We don't need to have those there. And these now need to be nearsighted. And now we have something a little more copyable. So we need to have 8 of them. And then this will move to the side to make more room. And then we don't need those, and the fuel belt is just going to go through. See, the acid's probably going to come from above, so we can cut that out. Cut these extra belts out. I guess just connect the wood. And oops, accidentally replaced this. It needs to stay the special kind, and it looks like some of our fuel blocks have made it in here now. This needs to be processed gold. And the last step's going to be at the top, but first we need to make the acid, which is just in a chemical plant, and it's quite easy. So since we need 2 plants, let's just do them on the sides here. And it doesn't really matter how we get these pipes in here, but they're in now. I don't quite remember if we've sent them all the way down here, but the one on the right needs to be hydrochloric acid. So let's check to see, do we have it? Drum roll. We do have nitric acid here, which is one of them, but I'm not sure about the hydrochloric. I mean, it's being produced all the way out here, so it's being put on this pipe and up here, so it should be right above the sodium hydroxide, and it stops there. But luckily, that's actually not that far away. This is going to take a ton of acid, 225 of each of them. Are we even making that much? Well, that certainly isn't. It comes from other sources, so maybe, but yeah, we'll see. This seems like a lot. But we also have buffers, so they help. Alright, made it. So there's the hydrochloric acid. And now the nitric, which is here, it's just way down. Hopefully it's not competing. And oh yeah, I made a squiggly with that belt because I wasn't sure what we were going to do with it, so I'm glad it's still there, because we needed it after all. Although getting this to fit is going to be annoying. But luckily these pipes are slightly longer than they need to be, so it works out just fine. So the acids are in. Now we need to get the ingots down here, and it's actually quite a bit. So before we get those ingots down here, let's figure out the setup at the top. It's going to be 2.5 machines with basically just a bunch of inserters based on the inputs and outputs here. So let's just grab all of this, and we're actually going to have 4 belts going in here, and the input is also basically the same. So because of that, we're basically just going to need to have a bunch of belts. This is about as compact as these machines can actually be, so that's going to require 4 of those inserters. Now these machines aren't going to be running at quite maximum power because we only need 2.5 here. 4 is more symmetrical, and we kind of need 4 because of the belts. Well, if we did 3, we would have exactly the right number of belts and machines. And I guess we could attempt to line them up with this other stuff. At least this top one. And also attempt to line it up there, which it is. So we're doing 4 belts here. That's not quite connected. But we really only need 3 of them. So, let's do a balancing warehouse. And then they can come in and go there. And these kind of are in the way, but I also don't want to move them, so they're gonna stay. So we have 3 of these. And actually we're going to need 2 of them for the output. Seems like 1 would be enough, but I guess not. So let's put 1 more here. And with our upgrade here, we can just use the purples, but we'll upgrade everything else later. We just need to hold the resources in until we have at least 1,000 before it lets them leave. And then these other ones will always go out because we need to pull in about 50. So basically 3 inserters here. And then it basically comes from up here. And we'll unhook it there. And this other one can come from here. Okay, disconnect that there. We do need to get some fuels in here. And that should be from way down there. And we need very little. Alright, let's use the gold to make the acid. They should work mostly at full speed, and they seem to. Because they got us filled up. So it takes gold to make gold. So now that we have it, we should be making it. This won't quite be 4 belts, it's only 3, but because we have 4 machines there, it works out a little better, and that's getting pretty thick. So what are these missing? It looks like I just got these placed incorrectly. That's kind of funny. Let's get them in here. That's creating a lot of gold very fast. Okay, looks like it caught up now. And now we are making more. So that seems good. Let's upgrade the gold belts. Probably only going to go to 1 spot, so it doesn't really matter. Uh-oh, it's still going, because we didn't put the limits on here. Let's see, so we need this to be 500. It needs to be over 500. Well, these need to go, if it's under 1,000. So, we're good now. It'll equalize later. So, doing pretty good. I see our junk warehouse has aluminum hydroxide, nickel cathodes, and silver nitrate. I'm guessing our process has just changed, so we don't need those resources anymore. So we'll have to figure out what to do with them later, but oh, residuals continues to go down, but we're holding out. Resources look fine. Nothing seems out of the ordinary here. Wow, that really just destroyed nitric acid. Just running that for a little bit. And it isn't actually running. So why is that? Oxygen. It looks like this setup here, it needs to have like a one-way valve or a pump or something. And I'm guessing some of these other setups that are hooked up the same way need to be that way. So basically it had its oxygen stolen from it. which caused it to stop working here. Let's see. So we really only want to have this connected if there's too much, so as an overflow. I wonder if anything else is hooked up that way. Kind of. This one isn't actually generating its own oxygen, it's taking it from the factory. It also needs nitrogen monoxide gas. That one won't quite work right either. Since we have a giant oxygen generator over here, I feel like we should just kind of steal from that, since it probably doesn't require that much at the end. It actually kind of does. Oh wow, this thing is like way more powerful than this. It needs like 3 more, which I suppose makes sense because that's usually how many of these are required. Let's see here. Actually, if we just kind of delete the nitrogen out of it, we might be able to get enough of this going just so it'll start up. Is it going now? Kind of. Oh, it's trying. Like starting an old car. Come on. Well, it wants to go. What are we looking at here for this whole thing? It clearly cannot put out the oxygen, and it's very oxygen negative. Very. So how much would 2 of these do? 812, which still isn't enough for that. So I think we need a triple. I'm not sure where we would put it. Or do we just steal from it? That might work, considering that it's relatively rare that both of these are going at the same time. Well, this is definitely something that can use anything it can get, so we will want to pumping the very little that's available in there. Let's make a chem plant 4, just to max that out as good as we can. Hopefully that is somewhere close to enough now. And it still looks a bit slow. And why is this here? Oh, I guess that was to power all of the inserters and whatnot. I don't think that thing has ever run, so it probably doesn't matter either way. Those red inserters may not be fast enough. What about now? Well, technically now it has enough compressed air. So now it's basically the oxygen that it's short on. And how did we set this up down here? That it looks like the oxygen just flows normally, but it has pumps on this side to try to force it in. And that makes sense. So, if we put this in here, we should start making our nitric acid again. Kind of. And, I guess it just kind of caught up, so in the end it didn't matter. But it's working like it's supposed to. Well, that's kind of depressing. Let's set this to 40,000. Because I just want to see this work. To make sure that it can. And seems like short on oxygen, but it kind of is catching up. But as you see by the amounts here, it seems pretty powerful. So it should be pretty capable of keeping up with what we need. So let's go back up there now. We have 2 more resources to do. First is chrome, and it's kind of throwaway resource. We've got it stored in there, and the warehouses are in the wrong order, but oh well. And I say throwaway because we're not really producing it in any significant amount, but we probably will eventually. So let's just get it taken care of now so we don't need to think about it. So it gets processed, and you add carbon, and you get the ingots, and it makes some carbon monoxide, which we could probably just dump, but we'll figure out. But it's not that difficult. Just these 2 steps. And we will say the input is 60 because that's kind of what we've been working with. Whether it actually ends up being that, who knows. Set that to carbon. So here's what we need. Let's try to pick something that doesn't have the belt going straight through the middle. Like this. And it needs to be somewhere, but we also want some spaces, so Well, this is going to be tricky because this stuff is right here, so I guess like this. And this other one's going to have to basically be titanium, but I guess we'll just put it there anyway, because I don't think we're going to have the ability to process the titanium yet. No, but this will at least mark where it goes. And does those spaces look pretty similar? They do. Let's just pull all of that out. We just needed to put it there so we knew where it would be. So processed chrome. And we don't need to worry about pellets or anything. And then they just go up. And I guess we'll just hop right over that. Into... well, it's hard to even find something that's similar. Let's just put them like this. It needs to have 18 going in, which is these two. And some amount of carbon. 6.5. Which we can do with this. Then the output is 2 belts. We need 54 per, but because of inserters, we'll do nears and fars. And then that creates the monoxide, but I'm not even sure what the nearest use of it would be. Well, we're only using it in 3 places. To synthesize the naphtha, and to vent it if it can't be used to synthesize naphtha. And then on nickel as an input. Well, that would be a giant belt for potentially not that much gain. So I'm okay with dumping it. Unless there's something we can turn it into. I mean, we could make synthesis gas with hydrogen, which is mildly useful. But we're so far away from where it would be used. I don't know if I want to go through all of that. Well, we could add steam to get hydrogen. That would save it. But it's probably a sufficiently low value resource that we could just ignore that for now. Just put it next to a flare stack and call it a day. Then when everything's said and done, we'll have a storage warehouse for it to go into. Should be set for the chrome ingots. And we'll want to fill it up to 1,000. But from there, we don't really know where we're going to put it. So you don't have to worry about it too much. Copying this would be useful. And then otherwise, just got to move the non-existent resources up here. So we'll do some crossing over of belts for now because it's the best we can do. But we do have some of it, so... okay. In comes the chrome. So we'll see this work for about 5 seconds. But nonetheless, it's important to see that it does work. And it seems to. We want to try to set this up now so it's a minimum amount of work later. So if we ever start making chrome, it'll just start working and we won't have to do anything with it. So, seems to be working. Fills up to 10K. And actually has a little bit left over. Great. Then the last thing we need to work on is tungsten. But that's going to have to wait until the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.